It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and joining us to talk about her book, Lovely, How I Learned to Embrace the Body God Gave Me, is Amanda Martinez Beck. Thanks for being here, Amanda.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks, Kyle.
I kind of want to just get started. This might sound a little blunt to listeners, but I've always tried to avoid using the word fat in reference to people and have taught my kids to do the same. But your podcast is called Fat and Faithful, and seems like you frequently use the word in your blogging and articles. I was kind of curious why.
That's a great question. Part of the reason that I use the word fat is that it's neutral in a way that overweight is not. Overweight is a term that literally says that there is a regular weight and I am over it. So I don't like that term. Also, the infantilizing nature of words like chubby or squishy or fluffy, they sound unprofessional to me. And so as much as people cringe when they hear the word fat, I am a part of a larger movement where we have decided, well, fat doesn't have to be bad. So let's use fat as a neutral descriptor because it's easy to say and it does not imply any sort of morality around size.
I know as part of your journey and reading about it, you haven't always come to accept this. So when did you first start struggling to see your body as being good?
Well, I think maybe the question is, what are the earliest memories I have of my body? Because I don't remember a time where I thought my body was good as a child. I was always larger than the people around me that were my same age and I don't remember not being on a diet. So being encouraged to lose weight was always something that was a part of my story. So I grew up in a Protestant home that was very committed to the scriptures, and I love the Bible. And reading in Genesis 1, when it says that God made humans and said it was very good, I started to be intrigued about that. And I went to Baylor University in Waco, Texas, and learned about the incarnation in a way that I had never had it presented to me before, that Jesus becoming man was an affirmation of creation, the goodness of creation. And so I was challenged to consider how my body worked into that. Well, I was drawn to the Catholic Church because I loved the Eucharist, and Jesus's body was good, and it is good and draws me to himself. So I started to think about the implications that I had learned that my body was bad and my spirit was good. That's heresy, right? That we're not a whole being, that we're body and soul together. So kind of unpacking that theology led me and my husband into the Catholic Church several years ago, and coming across the catechism where it says that we are obligated to consider our bodies as good. So that's kind of how my journey started and is continuing.
So as a convert, do you see any difference between Catholic versus Protestant view of body image?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we talk about preferential treatment for the poor in the Catholic Church in a way that reminds us that the weak things of the world will shame the strong things. And that truth is in the Protestant Bible because it's not hidden there. But I believe that the Catholic Church is so committed to the weak and sick and frail that it gives the space for me to consider my body as good, even if it's not meeting the levels of perfection that their culture demands of us. So people like Thomas Aquinas, he was a fat saint. People of faith like G.K. Chesterton, St. John the 23rd, Teresa of Avila, there are examples of holy people of girth that I didn't have in the Protestant church because the Protestant work ethic is really easily transferred onto bodies. That if I want to be fit for service to the Lord, that includes my body being fit, but that neglects the weak things of the world, shaming the strong. One of my favorite stories that when I was going through RCIA, the deacon told us, because his patron saint is St. Lawrence the deacon, and he was telling us the story of how when the Roman hierarchy was against the church and killed the Pope, and 6 of the 7 deacons were martyred, and the Roman authorities told St. Lawrence, okay, go gather the treasures of the church, and he bargained for 3 days, and then he went out and he gave away all of the money and the wealth of the church, and then gathered the sick and the broken and brought them to the Roman officials and said, here is the treasure of the church. It brings me to tears even now that my body, broken and imperfect as it is, that I am the treasure of the church, that the weak things in me are the places where Jesus is strong, that my weakness in my body is my tether to Jesus. And I really am convinced that if we want to be pro-life people, as a Catholic people, as the people of God, we have to learn to lean into our weakness so that Jesus can be strong in us, and so that we don't have a church that privileges the strong to the detriment of the weak.
Yeah. We're talking with Amanda Martinez Beck. The book is Lovely: How I Learned to Embrace the Body God Gave Me. And one of the ideas in your book is that our bodies tell stories. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Sure. When Pope Francis declared the Year of Mercy, my husband and I went on a pilgrimage to our diocesan cathedral in East Texas. And I was there before the Blessed Sacrament, spending time with Jesus. And I felt like he said, Amanda, my body tells my story. And I looked at the crucifix above me and the monstrance in front of me and realized that even the sign language that we use to talk about the body of Jesus, right? We touch the wounds where the wounds are in Jesus's hands from the nails of the cross. That a child who can't read can tell the story, can see the story of Jesus in his body, that he is broken for us and given. And I felt like God was challenging me to consider the story that my body is telling. In the book of Revelation, it says that the saints overcame the devil by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, or their story. And so, yes, I'm covered in the blood of the Lamb. That might be a little Protestant sounding. I am still learning the Catholic phrasing of things like that. We would say a lot like covered in the blood of the Lamb. But
Sure.
My body cannot be separated from my story. I am a fat woman. I am the mother of 4 children. I have literal scars on my body from birthing my children, from surgeries I've had because of, I'm really clumsy and I fell a lot as a child, so I'd have surgery on my wrist. I can look in a mirror and see Amanda Martinez Beck and not despise me. And I don't know how many of my brothers and sisters can do that. So I want to encourage people to look in that mirror, to see the face, see the body, no matter where ability lies, no matter if you're disabled or perfectly able or thin or fat or somewhere in between, that your body is telling the precious story of the testimony of God in your life.
And I think that's so powerful. And you extending this isn't just a weight issue, but a body image issue. What are some other ways that people besides weight might not give their body the respect that it deserves, the dignity, I guess, that it deserves? Right.
The dignity is a good term. So I speak from my own experience, and that's as a woman. And for a long time, I felt like as a woman, I had to be a certain way. I'm Southern. I grew up in Southern evangelical culture. And so part of that is being small, not just in body, but in the way that I express myself. with my personality and things like that. So that's not directly like a body image issue, but it is a self-image issue. I didn't feel like I could be my full self because that would scare the men around me and I'd never get married, which was told to me more than once because I have a very big personality. But God made me that way. Other ways that I have felt like I didn't measure up to some sort of perfection was that I have chronic foot pain that I've had since I was 7 years old, and it prevents me from walking a lot, and that can prevent a lot of things. So realizing that my foot pain didn't mean that my body was bad. So being able to see any sort of weakness in our body, again, is a tether to Jesus. I have to move more slowly than people around me. And I have to learn that that's okay because the purpose of my body is not perfection. It's relationship with God and with loving my neighbor as myself. And I can do that no matter what kind of body I'm in.
Yeah. Has this always been a problem? Has body image always been a human problem? Or do you think there's something unique about our time?
The answer to that is twofold. Number one, the first thing that happens in the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve partake of the forbidden fruit is that they experience shame about their bodies, right? So they immediately cover up. To me, that speaks so much to the primal nature of body shame being connected with original sin and being connected with what God has come to save us from.
Sure.
But the kindness of God. So Adam and Eve try to cover up with fig leaves. So what does God do? He kills an animal and he makes them clothes. He doesn't say, you need to get over your body shame. He says, here, let me cover you. And so coming to God in that place of, Lord, I'm feeling shame about this. And him, instead of just confronting me and being like, you need an attitude adjustment, him saying, here, let me cover you. So in our modern age, part two of this answer, in our modern age, we have so many images abounding. I don't think body shame is a new phenomenon, but I do think that we have nowhere to hide from it unless we intentionally seek the covering of the Lord. And a place that there are not mirrors, and it's not really a place for selfies before the Blessed Sacrament. That's a safe place to be, of just being before the Lord without trying to look a certain way or even have my body perform a certain way, and taking the grace of that covering out into the world after I've spent time before the Blessed Sacrament. So when I'm online, when I'm taking photos, learning that the shame I experience, I can bring to Jesus. And then over time, that decreases because he builds up a holy confidence within me of the goodness of my body.
Yeah. Well, I think this is such an important book, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So where should we send people to get a copy of it?
Well, my publisher is Our Sunday Visitor, so you can go to oscbookstore.com. They're available there. Also, it's available on Amazon, Books A Million, BarnesandNoble.com. Really, wherever you get books, you can get my books. All
right. Again, it's called Lovely, How I Learned to Embrace the Body God Gave Me. And Amanda Martinez Beck has been our guest, the author of the book. Thank you so much for taking some time out and sharing with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle.